We have Alejandro in Atlanta. How are you?
Hi, how you guys doing?
Did Lady Gaga write the song about you?
Yes, she did.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Basically, I'm just calling because I have a couple of things that really helped me abandon this religion that I have for 20-something years.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, what I thought was, if God sends bad people to hell and good people to heaven, He's sending people to hell to be punished by the devil. So what are they, partners? I mean, it seems to me that if the devil was banished into hell by God, then why is he out there helping God? And then I thought, well, maybe the devil's doing God's will, and then I thought, well, if he's doing God's will, then is God's will also to have the devil go around hiding all these fossils and doing all these things to trick us?
Yeah.
Yep. The more you ask, the less sense it makes.
And actually, I mean, I know there are Christians sitting out there who are, what you just said is like fingernails on a chalkboard, because there's so many different views doctrinally about God and devils and heaven and hell that you're right from your initial statement of God sends good people to heaven and bad people to hell.
Not everybody
that doesn't
buys
match. That doesn't even match the majority of Christian doctrine. But the thing is, you hit on a point that you can focus on that sets all the rest of that aside, because by and large, Christians are convinced that everything happens according to God's plan, including the things that people would attribute to the devil or Satan or whatever else. And then you can go right back to the Bible, where you can talk about the fact that God and the devil had a little kind of friendly wager about how best to whether or not Job would stand up to these poking and prodding, and that Lucifer is the accuser of mankind. And there's this grand mythology that not all sects actually agree on about the fall, and where, so there are some that would profess that Earth is Satan's realm and he's in control here, which doesn't avoid the problem of, okay, if there's a God and it's good and loving and benevolent, why on earth would he put us in this place that's supposedly under Satan's control? There's a million different ways to go about this, but the big thing is to hit them right at the beginning to say, is there anything that could happen that does not match God's plan? And as long as they acknowledge that there's nothing that could happen that is in defiance of God's plan, then number one, you're no longer responsible for the fact that you don't believe or buy this nonsense. And number two, God is ultimately responsible for everything if it's his plan. And you just can't get around that.
And if he's not in control, he's not omnipotent.
Yeah.
Right.
Or he's voluntarily giving up, I could have control, but yeah.
That whole idea was pretty much exactly what made me leave Christianity, because I found the idea of people being sent to hell ridiculous. I mean, even if somebody like Hitler is being sent to hell, God knew at the moment that he created Hitler that he was going to do all those things and he was going to spend eternity in hell. So, why is he creating people just for the sole purpose of punishing them for eternity,
Yeah, and it's actually worse than that. The idea that and I've used this line of question before, if somebody believes that there is a God who created the universe, did he know everything that would ever happen? Was he truly omniscient in that he knew everything that would ever happen throughout the course of this universe? If that's the case, and the next question is, did he have choices about what sort of universe to make? Because if he chose between this universe and an alternate universe, knowing what would happen, then he has dictated the course of all events, which means he knowingly picked the universe where I would stop being a Christian instead of the universe where I remained a Christian. So he has actually, by that decision, violated anything remotely like free will and predestined me to hell. If they think that God had no choice in how to create the universe, but knew that it was going to happen, then why did he create a universe at all? Wouldn't this be the instantiation of immense suffering for the vast majority of people who need not even exist? Why would this God create anything at all? Is he deficient? Did he need to do this? Was he incomplete in his existence? They're all really
it's contradictions all the way
questions.
down.
Yeah.
my family has been going crazy after I came out as an atheist. Like, all of my family has just been, calling me nonstop to talk to me about Jesus. And every time I have a conversation with them, I try to explain them logically why I reject all these things. Because after I had all these thoughts, I began to actually look into other reasons, and I started watching your show and all these things. And my family, every time I bring up the Old Testament or anything like that, they just feel cornered, and they always try to change the subject, and they try to talk to me about Jesus, and it's so frustrating.
Yeah, it's like they want to forget.
That's why they don't like us atheists very much.
Well, but that's the Old Testament. Jesus came and made everything better. But wait, isn't Jesus God? So was God have some kind of illness where he was this weird evil tyrant in the past, and then he came along and decided to love everybody and doom them to hell forever in the process? It's nuts.
Candy coating, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Like my mom says, she's like, yeah, Jesus came, died for our sins, and opened the gates of heaven. And I was like, yeah, he opened the gates of hell too.
Put an open for business sign on both of them. You can't have one without the other.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot for calling.
Thank you.
Yep. Good luck.
That's a weird sound at the end of that call. It's like paper rustling or a toilet flushing or.
It sounded to me like he was guzzling a martini or something.
Ah, well, good for you. It's Sunday afternoon. What else are you going to do? We got Kevin in Carlsbad. How are you?
Hi, Don and Matt. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
I am just fine. I've been catching your videos on YouTube. That's how I found out about you. And today's the first time I tried getting on the internet and streaming down to watch you. And I thought I'd call in. So
is it working?
Yeah, it is. It's about. Matter of fact, I'm in the other room away from my computer because there's about a 20-second lag. What you see.
Oh, it's very distracting, isn't it?
Yes.
So good for you for stepping away.
Watching, so
thank
I'm
you.
in here talking. So.
Thank you very much for going to the other room. And do you know why it's working? It's working because we have people like Joe Rhodes who busted his ass for years to make this show better. And so I'm going to keep thanking Joe over
folks
and over.
back there. So
and the other folks in the studio, Stephen Frank and Shelley, etc.
I was just going to say it's God's will that it's working. So.
It's working because it says in the New Testament that wherever any two Christians get together and ask for something in God's name, it'll be granted. So clearly, no two Christians have gotten together to pray that this show goes away.
Although we do have our share of technical difficulties.
Well, the devil, he's in there too.
Right.
Well, listen, the reason why I'm calling, I kind of wanted to just get your take on this or your opinion on this. And first of all, are you? I'm sure you probably are. You've heard of Pat Condell and familiar with him?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because I recently discovered his videos on YouTube, and boy, when I first started watching, I couldn't get enough. I just watched one after another. I thought, my God, this guy is saying everything.
He's got great rants, doesn't he? Yep.
Yeah, he does, and rant is what he does. But boy, he is good. But anyway, what the reason why I called is I'm a member of a very, very small minority, I believe, and that is the conservative atheists. And the problem that I see is that being the conservative, I feel that the religious people are damaging conservatism, and in so doing, I feel that they're really doing this country a disservice. I don't understand. There is no, in my mind, there's no link between conservative beliefs of constitutional, strict adherence to the Constitution and financial responsibility and so on and so forth, these things that conservatives hold dear. There's no tie-in between that and religion. And yet the unfortunate thing is that in a lot of cases, conservatism is being treated, it's being, it's like throwing the baby out with the bath because of this link to religion. And
now, would you say that you're socially conservative or fiscally conservative or both? Or
fiscally conservative and socially pretty libertarian. I favor. I think the drug problem could be solved by the legalization of drugs, and there's got to be some control to it, and perhaps people that are addicted, they would get prescriptions from doctors. But I'm against a lot of the gay bashing and stuff that goes on. Although I feel with gays and lesbians, I'm not real 100% in agreement with them, simply because a lot of them have a liberal agenda too that mixes in with their rights that they're trying to fight for. So,
well, you know, I think these divisions are evolving in our country, and you know, with the Reagan era, there was this strong association with the Republican Party and Christianity, and I think it was a negative both for our country and for the Republican Party. I think you're seeing another restructuring going on with this Tea Party thing. I think that, you know, it's the beginnings of another shakeout, and it may be that this is a time where, you know, real conservatives can take back the party, or create a new party, or do something in order to gather together and bring some sanity back. I think we really need that as a country. You know, I think having a good debate about particular issues is a healthy thing, a good thing. You know, let's decide things based on facts and these sorts of things. Let's get rid of all this this vitriol and just wacky decision making that's going on, vilifying people. So you know, you have a chance, I think, to be part of that. And there are people in our group, I think, that are similar to you as far as their viewpoints, and are very frustrated with the Republican Party as it is now. And you know, roll up your sleeves and see about fixing it.
I think part of the problem is this linking. The reason that I had to ask you if you were fiscally conservative versus socially conservative is that we've used conservative as a label for too many things. It doesn't really tell us anything at all about the individual, because one could be fiscally liberal and socially conservative, and one could be fiscally conservative and socially liberal and still call themselves, you know, a conservative, because that's why I have to ask. And so I think, you know, you're certainly not alone. There are within our group and other groups people associated with all different parties: Democrat, Republican, Green, Libertarian, Socialist, whatever. And so there are many in those different categories that would identify as fiscally conservative. The problem is that because the world operates on money, there's been this linking of fiscal conservatism with the social conservatism, and it's become the louder voice.
Right.
And I don't know what to tell you other than what Don said about, you know, continue to work, and maybe as these things change, we'll find better labels and categories to put ourselves in. But you know, what's happened, I think, in part, is that some people who would have normally identified as perhaps Republican have shifted to Libertarian, and some people who would have identified as Democrat have shifted to Libertarian, and then they've farmed out to other parties. And I've completely flip-flopped, whereas once upon a time I would have been both fiscally and socially conservative. I'm now fiscally moderate and socially liberal, like ultra-liberal. Although, you know, I'm not in favor of legalizing cannibalism or anything, but which is why I can't be a libertarian.
No, I think you're right. Libertarian seems to be that seems to be a growing movement, and I think maybe people like myself are starting to move in that direction. And
well, I think there are a lot of very frustrated people. I mean, this is a, you know, religion show, so I don't know how much we should talk about politics, yeah. But I think there are a lot of people frustrated in the United States, and hopefully there'll be a shakeout for the better soon.
And I'm no historian, so I may actually get this wrong, but my suspicion, based on what I've heard, is that basically the change in, for example, the Republican Party, it was in danger, and what was used was the Red Scare in the 50s that we talked about, that organized people of a religious mindset under one banner, and it became kind of like the party charge. They became the standard bearers and then overtook it. How do you fix that? I don't know. Well, we've had so much damage done in a decade, 2-decade period in the middle of the last century.